nowhere does it say that every year you have to reduce your heart rate by 1 beat. In the big book of endurance training and racing, what I talk about there is that we keep that 180 minus the age formula. You're feeling good and you're getting faster at that heart rate. Then about every 3 to 5 years, you might have to reduce that MAF heart rate by a beat or two, depending on your condition. If you've been doing well for those 3 to 5 years, then you wouldn't reduce it as much. But if you are not doing well, then the aging factor is maybe catching up, so you might have to reduce it more. The bottom line is that when you do make an adjustment, you're going to follow your MAF test to see if indeed you've reduced it and allowed your body to get faster at that same heart rate. The idea of reducing your heart rate every year is absolutely not true.
One thing I want to talk about, and this may be specifically for beginner runners, or you may have kind of forgotten this when summertime comes. It gets very hot, very humid. And you know, if you're using heart rate training, you're probably thinking, wow, I'm regressing. I'm not doing as well as I used to do. And I'm going backwards. And then you're like, well, maybe I need to reduce how many beats per minute I run. I'm only speaking from my experience, and that's all I can ever do here because I'm not a coach, right? I am not a doctor. I'm not a cardiologist. I'm not any of these kind of guys, right? I'm like you guys, right? Always striving to try to be better, you know, on a run, or, you know, trying to lose weight or try to feel better just by enjoying a sport and pushing our body, right? Okay, I've been heart rate training for a while, and I've noticed that I am not necessarily improving anymore. So sometimes, you know, looking at your environment is one of the bigger things. So that's why you try to look at your journal, whether it's a Strava journal or whether it's a, you know, a written down journal, whatever it is, right? And take a look at the weather, take a look at the humidity, see what's going on, because that will play a very big factor in, you know, if you're slowing down. Because guys, Sunday's run was absolutely terrible, man. Like, I started at 134 with a 6:55 kilometer pace, that is. And I finished with a 6:35 kilometer pace, but I'm like redlining 15 kilometers later at 60 beats a minute. So they're very, very different beginning and ending. And the only thing was, it was just extremely, extremely hot. And because of that, you know, I felt like I was racing, just like I had mentioned in my Strava post, right? I just ran for the sake of running. I just love running up in Collingwood. And so at the end of the day, that's just what I did. I didn't really pay attention to heart rate training until I started to like have to stop and walk for a bit, because, you know, you get dehydrated. I took water with me, but I was still dehydrated at the end of it. Summer months, it kind of takes it out of you. When Dr. Phil talks about, you know, being over fat, right? If you've got weight to lose, you need to reduce how many beats per minute that you run. So like take 180 minus your age, and that should be what you're running at. But if you're overweight or over fat, as he calls it, you know, you got to reduce it down by another 5. Well, or if you're coming back for an injury, you got to reduce it another 5. Or if you're on medications, you got to reduce it by 10, and all of these different factors. And the only reason that like when he talks about that is you're putting stress on the body, and you just don't want to get injured. So you're running well below what you're capable of doing. That's where I always question it, is at what point do you add it back in, right? Because at what weight does it say that now you're not over fat? There's an equation that he uses when he talks about over fat and how to come up with that. But I look at it and go, it's very subjective, and I don't 100% kind of go down that road. And so it's hard to say when you need to add those 5 beats back in. Like, if you've been running for like 2 or 3 months and you've been improving, right? Do you go ahead and say, hey, I'm going to add those 5 back in, and is it all good again? That's the problem with all of these subjective heart rate numbers when you're using it from a standpoint of age. We can all do our best, right? But unless you go into a lab and get tested, to figure out where all of your zones are. You're really guessing at the best of the day. But the one thing that I like about the Maffetone method is it really does kind of insulate you from that injury prone side, and it allows you to slowly build up that aerobic base. I really enjoy that aspect of it. One of the things I said in my previous video is, you know, I said I'm on the fence, right? You know, this whole Maffetone thing. And you know what? It's okay to say that, because yes, I've seen it work for me. Yes, it was a number of years ago. Life changes all the time. Life is not a linear line. There's always bumps along the way. So trying to use that as a starting point and to try to build up your base, I think is fantastic. Now, it's not all about slow running. Like, Maffetone method is not all about that, right? It's a lifestyle. It allows you a lot of leeway in different things. And the big thing that a lot of people kind of take out of context is that every single year, like if I started using the Maffetone method 3 years ago, you know, I'm running at 138 beats a minute. Basically, every year I need to reduce it by, you know, by a beat. Now I'm going to be running 3 beats lower at 135. But that's not how it works. So Dr. Phil Maffetone basically states that if you've been using the Maffetone method for a while and you've been improving, fantastic, you know, keep that number. Now, if you stop running for a while, it doesn't mean that that number needs to disappear and you just need to reduce it all the way back down and start all over again. But I mean, if you've taken 5 years off or something, then okay, you may need to reevaluate where you are. But just because a year passes, it doesn't mean that you need to reduce it, right, by a beat, right? So you can keep that number as long as you keep improving year over year. But that's what I run into my issue is, what if you take some time off, right? Like if you take 3 months off, right? You know, recovering from an injury, okay, fine, you can come back, you can reduce your heart rate, you know, 5 beats, blah, 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 all of that, right? But you know, 5 years later, you're definitely gonna have to do your math test all over again and start to come up with that number and then play around with it. It's all, you know, you really are kind of taking a number and massaging it to figure out what works best for you. That's the way I look at it. So when I said last week that, you know, I'm kind of on that fence, right? I'm one of those guys. And that's why, because there's a lot of subjectiveness in the method. It doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It works extremely well if you're very disciplined at it and you give it the time of day, right? You've got all these other pillars that come into play, right? Food, stress, sleep, right? Your training volume. Like, the stress on your body comes in so many different fashions, but we, as just general people of society, we don't always see that, right? We think we can take on the world and do so much more. And yeah, we're great. We can adapt to a lot of things, right? But, you know, life is what it is. I was really excited for the last 24 hours. I plan on going to Blue Mountain and Collingwood, which is just north of where I am. It's a nice loop. It gives me 16 kilometers, and it's not that hard. It's a enjoyable run, and the scenery is pretty cool. Like, I get to see a lot of nice houses. I see waterfront, I see trail, I see boardwalks, I see a lot of cool things, and I really like this area. The last 2 days were so flippin' busy, I didn't get a chance to get a run in, and that's my fault. Obviously, I didn't prioritize it, which every single run I miss is my fault, because I just don't prioritize it, and I know I need to get better at that. However, here I am, and yeah, today's a little bit of a long run, which I'm really happy about. Not happy that the amount of days that I have run this week, which is really, I think I've only run twice all week, and that's not good for me. I like to get at least 4, 5, even 6 days. I do like, it is what it is. So let's go to Collingwood. Let's go for a run. Time to go for a run. Yes, this is me sitting on a bench. Can't believe it. The place that I come to, well, when I come for a run, they're closed. I forgot they're closed on Sundays. So now I gotta figure out what I'm gonna do. I'm so hungry right now. I just wanna eat something, and the place I wanna go is closed, and the other place I like is sold. So now what? I improvise. I gotta figure this out. So I think I'll go to Booster Juice, because there's, I don't know, man, there's only so many healthy places to eat. And it seems like the healthy places to eat are either closed or they go out of business every couple of years because only so many people can support them. I kind of ran out of steam. I just kept overheating. It was just too warm. My heart rate really got high today. Just kept going up and up and up. I mean, when I started, it was already high. Time to start eating healthier, guys. Time to start eating healthier. Okay, Blue Mountain. I love Sunset Grill. Okay, this was a total, absolute failure. Booster Juice isn't even here anymore. Like, I don't even know when it left. But there's all kinds of other places that I can't eat at. So you can pay to go up in one of these gondolas right here. And I'll take you to the top, because there used to be a trail that used to go all the way up here, but they closed it. That kind of sucks. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. Tim Hortons is calling. I'm kidding. No, I'm not going back. Totally needed this. Planned it. Have you ever listened to somebody and thought, wow, they have some really great information? And then you kind of dive into it and you think, wow, did they really say that? And then you start to kind of question yourself to say, hey, does this guy know what he's talking about? Well, I want to apologize. I always like to own up to any mistakes or if I mislead anybody, because it's never any fun, right? Because if you're watching videos on YouTube, unless you're a content creator, you might not understand the process I have to go through to make a video. And one of the challenges I face is always like trying to win your click, right? Like trying to come up with a topic that would add some value to your life. And I don't know if I've always done a good job of that. Sometimes, I'm trying to come up with a thumbnail, because if I come up with a thumbnail for my video and it's not good, again, it doesn't resonate, like no one clicks it. And like all of the hard work that I've put in, just no one sees it. And that's really hard. It's a really hard thing to have happen. So really coming up with a good title and a good thumbnail, they complement and bring, intrigue into the video, and you guys click on it, and then typically you guys watch a lot of the video, and I'm very grateful for that. However, I just wanted to explain, like, coming up with titles and thumbnails is very difficult in a space that can be very, very crowded, and trying to eke out your own voice. And, you know, somebody who doesn't know my video yet may not be, you know, listening, or may not have seen one of my videos, or, you know, trying to break through all of that. It can be a little daunting. And so sometimes, you know, coming up with a thumbnail, you know, I'm on the fence. You know, is this a good enough thumbnail? Does it tell a little bit more of a story? I go through waves of self-doubt, you know, on this channel, and it's hard. Like, it's just me, guys. It's only me, you know, putting these videos together all the way through and working a full-time job. It's not easy. So, you know, if you see a title, or if you see me say something that you may not agree with, hey, that's okay. I love that. I love having dialogue, and that's really cool. I just like to, you know, let you guys know that I'm always striving to bring good quality content. So I try to come up with a thumbnail that, you know, is worthy of your time, because your time is very precious, because that is the only thing that we really have at the end of the day, is our time. So for all of you who have watched my videos in the past, I'm very grateful, and thank you for continuing to support me and what I do here. And for anyone that's just found this channel for the very first time, welcome aboard. There's a lot of running talk here, a lot of talk about heart rate training and my journey in the sport of running, and training using heart rate to run faster by running slower. Now, it's not the only things I do, but it's, you know, a lot of what I talk about. But it's not, that single one thing is not everything to everybody. So I do try to put in a little bit of variety. I've always thought, you know, if I needed to start at the very beginning, kind of where would I start? How would I approach the whole Maffetone method? In this video right here, it really kind of, you know, put a spotlight a lot of the differences between hiking, walking, and running using the Maffetone method. And I think it's kind of like maybe a light bulb moment for some people who are just kind of starting out. Question of the day: why did you start running using the Maffetone method? Comment below, I'd really like to know. Anyways, guys, if you like these videos, please hit the subscribe button, like and comment on the videos that I put out there. I do it for you guys. I do it to also keep me accountable. I love doing these things, and I want to continue to bring it to you. I appreciate all of the likes and comments that you guys have been giving me. And until next time, get out and run.
Trying to find some balance in